Hey guys, what's going on? We got more Candace Owens news. She's in a battle with the French media due to her mixing up of Camp Ripley and Camp Riley. She claims it was a typo. They're kind of using it. The French media is using it as kind of an excuse to kind of dismiss her whole story. She's mad about that. I got some clips regarding that. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into a bunch of stuff. I got a whole lot of exciting things coming your way, but let's get to it right now. I got some excerpts from a Fortune article about Candace and what's been going on with her, basically detailing the French lawsuit, what she stands to lose, what she stands to gain, the hurdles, the legal hurdles involving her and the Macrons and whatnot. But let's get into this right here. The conservative podcaster and provocateur is facing a high-stakes defamation lawsuit filed by French President Emmanuel Macron and Brigitte Macron, the First Lady. The suit is set to test whether the controversy as currency au revoir that made Owens rich and gave her a media brand that reached tens of millions of people can survive what experts say will be an immensely costly legal battle. The plaintiff's weapon of choice, Claire Locke. We went over that lawsuit briefly. We looked at a PDF of it. Claire Locke, it's a law firm. They extracted almost $800 million from Fox News on behalf of Dominion Voting Systems. The Fox News, after the 2020 election, was a big news story that the Dominion voting machines were rigged. Turns out they weren't. It cost them almost $1 billion, $750 million, to correct that mistake and basically get everything squared away and whatnot. But yeah, that was a pretty big black eye for Fox News. But they're talking about this is the law firm that the Macrons are using to go after Candace Owens. It's it's pretty bad. They're alleging spreading false information is essentially Owens' business model. Later in the article, they reference the settlement Alex Jones had to pay for the Sandy Hook conspiracy talk a few years ago. It was what a big mess that was. Pretty much almost destroyed InfoWars, but yet Alex Jones, he's still kicking somehow. I guess cancel culture isn't real. But they're talking about how much money the conservative media influencer sphere makes. It's insane. Daily Wire, Owens' former employer, the one she got fired from because she can't stop talking about Brigitte Macron's penis, they generated $200 million in revenue in 2023. Candace Owens, they say, her company generates about $10 million a year, so the valuation is obviously several times that. But we go on here. Advertisers have followed. Yeah, another big thing is the advertising. Now, the top 10 advertisers working exclusively with conservative podcasts are now spending a combined $5 million per month, nearly 4 times their average monthly spend in 2023. It's extremely lucrative. And there's a lot of reasons you see a lot of guys taking right-wing turns, guys like Brian Callen, guys like Russell Brand, guys like Jim Brewer, a lot of these comedian guys getting into right-wing spaces because, basically pushing these right-wing narratives, kind of anti-leftist narratives. That's a very popular, lucrative thing now in the age of Trump. Look at all the money Daily Wire's making. Look at all the money Tucker Carlson's making, Megyn Kelly. Look at all these figures raking in the dough. It's absolutely insane. But advertising rates for top conservative podcast experts told Bloomberg range from $10,000 to more than $100,000 per ad read. By contrast, left-leaning podcasts with sizable YouTube audiences like Midas Touch and Majority Report in the Bulwark under $2 million typically secure only a $5,000 per ad slot. So it's absolutely insane. And it kind of flies in the face of this idea that right-wingers are being censored. It kind of goes, counter to that. It's really people. All these guys are big free speech guys talking about cancel culture, how they're getting canceled left and right, and a lot of guys do endure a lot of issues, a lot of demonizing in the media, a lot of slander. Guys like Tim Pool have been swatted. The Alex Jones lawsuit, we remember that. A lot of guys get doxxed. A lot of guys get fucked with in another way. Being a right-wing media figure can be somewhat dangerous in some regards. Not that I would really suggest these guys' lives are in danger for the most part, but yeah, I mean, they're making so much money. It's absolutely insane. But moving on to this, the cold hard reality is that right-wing media generates millions of dollars and with roughly half the country under its spell, Polskin added. The power can prove extremely lucrative for power players in the market. George Farmer, Owens' husband, told Bloomberg that advertisers on her show allegedly reported seeing returns of 2 to 1 on dollars spent, up to 5 to 1 on some cases. That's absolutely insane. Um, Right wing brands pay notably high CPMs, cost per thousand impressions, a metric for online advertising that measures the cost to display an ad 1,000 times. Yeah, they're saying that they typically fetch CPMs of $25 to $50, equating to $2,500 to $5,000 per ad. Data from digital marketing firm Design Rush found at Owens' peak volume of roughly 3.5 million downloads per episode. Even conservative CPM estimates put a single sponsorship ad read at 50,000 to 175,000, and she runs multiple sponsors per show. It's absolutely insane. I'd imagine like this French lawsuit, they're probably going to go after Owens hard. They might target her advertisers, but she just keeps going. She keeps going. This latest stream that we're going to watch clips from, it premiered 18 hours ago. It has 17,000 comments, like 110,000 upvotes, and like 1.7 million views. It's absolutely insane what Owens is able to produce. And I imagine maybe some of it's botted. I'm not sure how that all works. How much of it's actually organic, I'm not sure. But I got to believe, seeing the kind of influence she has, on Twitter. She has like a few million followers on Twitter, a few million followers on YouTube. It's absolutely insane the reach this woman has to say this kind of stuff. The lawsuit itself presents its own set of challenges for both the Macrones and Owens, but to talk about the Sandy Hook settlement for Alex Jones. Demonstrate a willingness of juries to hold independent media personalities responsible with substantial financial penalties for their actions. Likewise, in 2016, a Florida jury bankrupted the original Gawker blog with a $140 million judgment for invading the privacy of late wrestler Hulk Hogan. Yeah, that was a real mess. R.I.P. Gawker. That was kind of what kicked off the whole Gamergate thing. But, yeah, it's crazy. Like, she stands to lose a hell of a lot. But the thing is, they say, like, in this article, they mention a little bit later, like, how the publicity would work for Candace Owens. See, Alex Jones hasn't really been effectively canceled. He's still going. You could question how much money he's actually making. His influence, in the wake of the lawsuit and all the other trouble that he's been going through the last few years. But he's still out there. He's still able to spread his message. And Candace Owens, even if she were to lose this lawsuit, I mean, I don't know how much it would cost her, if it would bankrupt her, but she has enough powerful friends. She has enough connections. She could probably build her brand back up. People want the truth. It's a big issue, so you definitely got to pay attention to this Candace Owens thing. But she has millions on the line in legal fees if she were to lose. In the case of Alex Jones, a Florida judge estimated the legal fees and court costs for the Sandy Hook families will be $320 million. In terms of damages, she said the amount would depend on several factors: the concrete harm the Macrones can prove, such as lost business opportunities or speaking fees, the scope and reach of her statements, and how many times she repeated them. She just keeps going. Candace Owens just keeps going and going and going with these little with the accusations over and over again. Bridget McConn's a man. The French government wants to assassinate me. All this kind of stuff going on and on and on. Given that she has no evidence, because there is no evidence, it's easy to see how the plaintiffs will be able to prove actual malice, and opens a possibility of getting not just presumed damages, but punitive damages. First Amendment law specialist professor at the University of Florida Law School told Fortune. So the question is, are juries tired of media irresponsibility in a way that make them want to send a message? They certainly did with Alex Jones. But here, the final statement here, as we talked about before, that the trial itself will likely bring in substantial revenue for Owens from the controversy alone by driving engagement through viewership with her various monetized media channels. Because of this, Caruso believes the conservative online personality, may even come out on top, even if she loses the lawsuit. So we got that there. But we're going to move on to some clips here real quick. Just let's review some of this stuff right away. Now, we talked about the address she got wrong. The 920 King Street address was actually her lawyer's address. She posted it as some kind of CIA, FBI front. She thought like some government agencies were operating out of this address. She addresses that. We talked about her getting the Utah time and Universal time mixed up. As regards to the plane, she says the Egyptian spy plane, the Dassault DX-7, whatever it was, allegedly landing in Wilmington, and the foreign dignitary that was allegedly on board the plane. But then we go on the misspelling of the Fort Ripley and Fort Riley. She addresses some of these, but there is no Fort Ripley in Minnesota. That's where the the military base was. There's a Camp Riley out that way. She said it was a bit of a typo. That's what she's claiming it as. But let's get into some of these clips. We'll start with a few things here. Oh, let's hop back in here. Now, this first clip, she's talking more about the assassination plot regarding the French government and the Macrons. Let's get into this.
Get comfortable, you guys, because it is going to be a long week. I have so many explosive revelations to share with you, and now it feels especially urgent, right? Don't you feel a sense of urgency right now in the wake of me having learned that France apparently paid for my assassination and that the French Foreign Legion was apparently...
Okay, I'll say this. I've been highly critical of Candace Owens. I think a lot of this is just schizo rambling, but I'm going to take a more measured approach to this. I'm not going to be quite so skeptical. Let's see what Candace has to say, and then I'll let you guys decide for yourself. Somebody on YouTube, they said, oh, I hope you like your $7,000, because that was the thing, allegedly, like these guys that were basically running interference for Israel and Bibi Netanyahu getting paid $7,000 from the Israeli government. So that's what they accused me of being. But yeah, I'll take a more measured approach to this and see what she has to say. But, you got to keep in mind, none of this is really verified. She has not shown real proof, but allegedly she has some more proof dealing with the identities of certain of the French Foreign Legion that may be involved. I'm not sure what she's going to show for us. She's probably got some documents. I hope it's not just tweets. I watched a couple of these clips. I kind of skimmed them, but let's discover this together. Let's go on this journey together of discovery, and let's let Candace Owens take the reins here and explain herself.
Involved and on the ground at UVU on the day of Charlie Kirk's assassination, and we should probably begin there. Foremost, if you were one of the people online who believed for a single second that it was even a remote possibility that I simply made up a French assassination attempt heading into Thanksgiving week, I don't know, for like attention or something, I sat around and I said, I'm just not getting enough attention. How can I start a global conversation about me? And then I came up with this idea of creating fan fiction where I imagined myself as the victim of a...
Now, keep in mind, I know we're trying to be more fair to Candace and less skeptical, but keep in mind she has no proof of this, that the French government, the French Foreign Legion, the gendarmerie, excuse me, the gendarmerie has put out statements denying this is the case. She alleged that Tyler Robinson was also behind the Charlie Kirk assassination, or not, obviously, but he was trained by the French foreign government. All these have been denied. I know you got to take certain things with a grain of salt. Of course, they're going to deny this kind of stuff. That's some people take that as proof that it's really happening, or they just don't believe these government organizations when they say that there's nothing going on, or when they say Candace is wrong. You don't want to be too willing to accept the official narrative, and I think people take issue with that. Personally, when a government, when you accuse like a government entity of doing something and they deny it, not even a government entity, like a certain personality or whatnot, and they deny it, you want to take them at their word, but you don't really want to. It's kind of just, I'll let you guys make it up. I mean, do you think that these denials are actually legitimate? Do you think they had nothing to do with the Charlie Kirk assassination? I'll let you decide that.
Multinational state plot to murder me. Yeah, if you thought that for a single second, that it was for funsies, because I'm not busy or anything, then you're just not sober. You're not paying attention to anything, and you need to wake up real fast. We're going to move quickly through a lot of things this week because everyone in the world needs to wake up to how things actually work. LOL to the idea of Western democracy. LOL to the idea that you can win in life and everything's basically you've set the stage for a meritocracy and you can get ahead. No, actually, as you learn things, you become a target. You become a target to people that operate in the shadows. And that is, I think, what we are all learning in the wake of the last couple of months, especially.
Okay. That was Candace in her own words talking about how basically you're stupid if you don't believe her. That's basically the thing. She's going on hard in this. I believe that she believes she's the target of French assassins from the gendarmerie, that she believes that Macron, I don't know. I think she sincerely believes this. I'm not saying it's true, of course. Some of you guys may think it's true. Some of you guys may think that she's actually spitting facts here. But it's clear to me she's really riding to the hilt with this. She stands to lose pretty much all of her money if this lawsuit does not go well. This Thomas Clare law firm is known for getting big settlements, and we see the precedent set by lawsuits like the Alex Jones lawsuit. They can take everything from you, but she keeps pushing this narrative. She has not retracted any statements. She is going hard with this. A lot of people are supporting her. She has a big audience of support. It just keeps going and going and going. So let's continue. This next one, she talks about a private investigator allegedly hired by the Macrons.
Remember, the French couple has been so psychotically obsessed with trying to paint me as conflicted in my reporting.
Well, yeah, you're saying that the president's wife has a dick. So
that they even hired a private investigator to try to see if I was colluding with other state actors. You know,
it's the New York Post. You know it's true.
they kind of gloriously insinuated that I might be working with Russia. They paid for that. They paid for that investigation. So using that logic, wouldn't this be the opportunity, if you're the French couple, to come out and to prove your point, to make a stunning and a swift statement, right? We are shocked by the accusation. Of course, never in a million years. Oh, we told you guys, this is just for clicks. It's for money. This is beyond anything we've ever heard. I hope Candace gets well soon. That would be what I would say you should do if I'm advising you from a PR standpoint, right? In American basketball terms, this is like a flagrant foul, and you now get some free throws, right? If you're the French couple. You're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees, investigative fees, and PR fees in a country on the other side of the Atlantic, trying desperately to paint me.
This whole thing, I'm sorry, I don't dig this victim routine. You see it happen, the left and the right, everybody does this in like the political arguments spaces where it's like you go after somebody hard, they go after you, they threaten legal action against you, or they come back at you hard, and then you say, oh, what are you going after me for? I'm just a little guy. I'm just a single person. It's just like, Candace, you have an audience of millions, probably tens of millions of people hanging on your every word. You're slandering the French president. What did you think was going to happen, I mean, you're going to spark an international incident over this kind of shit. And Candace did bring up the fact she thinks that she's said that this has gone to the president's desk, that Trump knows about all this kind of stuff now, which kind of makes sense to me. I mean, I got to assume that Candace has at least some kind of relationship with President Trump, with as close to Charlie Kirk as she was, with as close to Trump as TPUSA was. I have to believe that maybe Trump does know about this somewhat, but I don't think he's released a statement about it. I don't know what she's expecting from him. But yeah, I mean, Candace, you have a massive, massive platform here. You're going after the French president. Of course he's going to come back down on you. You can't do this victim shit. I mean, come on already.
As a lunatic, and I give you the opportunity to spike the ball to prove that I'm a lunatic, and you don't do it? No, they didn't do it, did they? If you've been paying attention, they did not do it.
Okay, all right. That was clip two. She's going on. Apparently, I mean, I think she's at the stage now where you can't talk her down out of this. She's just not listening to you. This is like some Kanye West shit where you just can't tell the guy to stop. He just will not stop. But there's some unanswered questions that Candace is going to talk about in this next clip, getting into it a little bit, talking about the connections she has, or like the alleged connections to assassins that the French government has and whatnot. Let's just play the clip.
And I publicly challenged the...
Okay, let's look at some of these headlines here. Candace Owens says Macron's ordered her assassination but provides no evidence. We covered that story. Now, whether or not you want to believe the denial is true or not, or the fact that you believe that the evidence she does provide is legitimate, okay. U.S. pundit claims Macron has ordered her assassination. Candace Owens claims to be in danger of assassination attempt. What has she really provided? I've watched a lot of her content. I'm not sure. She says she has like an itinerary of a Egyptian spy plane, allegedly. She has a lot of hearsay and conjecture, a lot of tweets, a lot of text between her and like these French journalists that she picked up the Bridget Macron story from. And she says she does have correspondence, like text messages between her and Charlie Kirk telling her to drop the thing. I don't know if that's proof that somebody's trying to assassinate her, but let's watch a little bit more.
Candace is making everything up crowd to prove it. Press the White House for a response, right? The White House the ball's very firmly in their court. And a week later, this is the official White House response. So what are we to make of that, you guys?
I got sound effects too. We got some drama here, people. We got some drama here. But let's keep it going.
Did I report it to the White House? Of course I reported it to the White House. Did I report it to the FBI? Of course I reported it to the FBI. Did I report it to our counterterrorism unit? Of course I reported it because I'm telling you there's a paper trail. Common sense. You think I'm just doing that because I'm assuming you could get a felony for making something up out of thin air like that. You can't just use United States resources to go after somebody in a plot that never existed that you did for clicks on YouTube. So what's the issue here? Why is no one coming out and telling you that that's completely baseless, especially the Charlie Kirk assassination? The whole world is invested in that assassination. Wouldn't you want to shut that down? The idea that it was a multinationally planned event? And by the way, is that on its face even plausible?
Okay. Well, that's a good question, Candace. I'm not sure. I don't know, honey. I don't know. But, yeah, she's basically putting the ball in her accuser's court. She's kind of saying, you got to prove this stuff is wrong. I'm not sure exactly if she has some kind of, what evidence, does she have, proof positive? Is there, an investigation? Not just going by all these fly-by-night, conservative news outlets or, hearsay and conjecture or all this other kind of stuff. What actually is she trying to propose here? What exactly are we going for here? Because in the clips, I didn't really... Does she have, an actual signed document? Is it an actual thing? Is it not a prank? Because she was pranked. We talked about the 920 East King thing. We're going to get into that as well. We're going to talk about that as well. But yeah, it's... What do we got here? Hold on one second. But yeah, we got... this is another clip of her now talking about the French. But let's see what she provides here. Let's have an open mind. Let's be more accepting of what Candace has to say. Let's be willing. We'll still be critical about it, but I don't know. Let's get into it.
Well, anyways, in that article, I'm only going to read a paragraph from it, but he said, when Candace Owens claimed on X that a high-ranking French government insider warned her of an imminent plot to have her assassinated, alleging that President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte had authorized and financed the operation.
Hold on. Assigned to a small national gendarmerie intervention group. Yeah, we got into that. She was wrong about where included an Israeli operative. The Israeli operative thing, they're saying something about that because Candace has been highly critical of Israel. She's gone to basically war with Ben Shapiro over Israel, claiming it's multi-state involvement. The claim sounded like it belonged to the realm of conspiracy thrillers, and yet as the allegation ricocheted across social media, something unusual happened. People did not extensively laugh it off. Some dismissed it, but many hesitated, paused, or quietly admitted that given the right circumstances, given the right network of covert actors, such a plot didn't feel entirely impossible. This isn't, okay, it doesn't feel possible. You're asking, regular slobs what their opinion are. Some Joe Schmo, some Joe Six-Pack is going to be like, well, yeah, it sounds like it could be plausible. They're saying Pavel Durov, the founder of Telegram, now he's allegedly kind of backed up her claims and said that this does seem feasible that somebody could be going after Candace Owens. She says a high-ranking French government insider. Okay, I'd imagine like she's not going to name her source, but what does she have to back this up? Really? Now it's just like, yeah, people believe it, but there's so many people willing to believe conspiracy theories these days. Conspiracy theories are a big part of this now. It just keeps going and going and going. But let's get into it a little bit more. She's probably going to finish reading this segment here. I think she's alleged that Tyler Robinson was part of this gendarmerie or part of the French Foreign Legion in some capacity. And yeah, something to do with Charlie Kirk's assassination. Now they've released a statement that it's not the case, as we've brought up before, but that just seems to be supercharging Candace's suspicions.
Assigning it to a small national gendarmerie intervention group team that included an Israeli operative, she also suggested that Charlie Kirk's assassin trained with the French Legion with multi-state involvement. The claim sounded like it belonged to the realm of conspiracy thrillers, and yet, as the allegation ricocheted across social media, something unusual happened. People did not instinctively laugh it off. Some dismissed it, yes, but many hesitated, paused, or quietly admitted
it's not proof
that given the right circumstances, given the right network of covert actors, such a plot didn't feel entirely impossible. That hesitation doesn't come from trust in Owens. It comes from history. And sure enough, and I'm just pulling up the Wikipedia page here, you should go read that article in its entirety, but the Safari Club, man.
Yeah, she gets into Safari Club a little bit. I didn't really have much clips from it. It just sounded like kind of bunk to me. But apparently Candace has some more proof, some alleged proof. Now she's saying that's she has more proof of the French Legion's involvement in Charlie Kirk's assassination, the Safari Club thing. She kind of goes off on a tangent about that. Let's focus more on the French involvement in this and get into that a little bit here.
Which explains why nobody called? No, Utah, not interested? I'm actually surprised Tyler Robinson's lawyer hasn't reached out to me. What's going on here? Oh, we've got to protect the patsy, right? We've got to protect the patsy in this situation.
I don't know why it's so hard to believe that this guy was just acting alone, radicalized by like left-wing or right-wing rhetoric or memes or whatever. I don't know why it's so hard for people just to believe. I mean, Occam's razor, it's just like been totally discarded here. She thinks he's a patsy. She thinks Israel has something to do with it. Now she's saying the French government has something to do with it, but there's an Israeli in this French government, military, the French Legion. It just goes on and on and on. Like, you would think, it is, maybe she does have a point, like the legal team defending Tyler Robinson, maybe like they would want her to shut the fuck up as well because they don't want to make things worse for their client. Because it depends what happens in the court of law. Like, she keeps going and talking about how, well, people believe me. They haven't debunked me. And then she just kind of goes on. In the court of law, it's a different thing. People, these juries, if they think you're full of shit, they will convict you. Or not convict you, but they will side in favor of the Macrons and take your money. That's the court of public opinion. That's one thing. But the actual jury, the actual legal process you get involved with, that's another. And like, if she thinks that she can exonerate Tyler Robinson somehow, I don't think, like, the actual legal processes involved, like actual law firms, actual legal involvement here, they're not gonna humor this because that's not gonna go over in a court of law. I'm not a legal expert. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not I'm not well versed on law. You'll have to I'm kind of just speaking as a layman here. But they're not going to go with some conspiracy theory as a defense of their client. I mean, what are you doing here, Candace? Okay. I'm sorry. I got to keep an open mind. I'm sorry.
Regarding the only official that we did receive any sort of a public response from, it reads to me like a confession. Let me know if you agree. So I pointed out that interestingly enough, after I began researching the French Legion, I very quickly stumbled upon the fact that they were also involved in a joint operation with American troops in the exact weeks leading up to Charlie's assassination. More specifically, according to the, French Foreign Legion website, between August 2nd and August 25th of this year, the Legionnaires from the 4th Company, 2nd Foreign Infantry Regiment, the 6th Light Armored Brigade, were integrated with U.S. Marines of the 6th Marine Regiment for a 3-week training deployment. Okay. That took place in California. Okay. And then once that training ended, I said this online, another camp began immediately. It was a joint exercise with civilians, which included military men from the Minot Air Force Base. And that joint exercise took place in Minnesota at Camp Ripley. And that ran just for a couple of days until August 27th. And that was known as Operation Valhalla. Okay. Random 3-day exercise with civilians. And I was wondering if the French Legionnaires that were in California maybe jumped right into activities going on with these civilians at Camp Ripley. But
okay, the Camp Ripley, Camp Riley thing. Now, allegedly, these we watched that debunking video from the French 24, I believe that was, and they talked about how she got the camp wrong. There's not Camp Ripley, it's Camp Riley. It's this whole thing. Let's take a look at this here. Oop, wrong button. Operation Valhalla can refer to several different things, including U.S. Air Force training exercise, a video game mission, nonprofit organization supporting veterans, Operation Valhalla. This is back in 2009. Let's go French Legion. Oh, for God's sake. Press the wrong button. Legion. It's all here. There's no specific military operation named Valhalla involving the French Foreign Legion. Operation Valhalla is the title of a collection of writings by author Friedrich Kittler that discusses the intersection of war and media, not a real military operation. The French Foreign Legion is an active military unit with a past and present operation, but the Valhalla code name does not correspond to one of them. Okay. All right. The user may have confused due to the mention of Valhalla in a military context and Legion's own rich history and mythology. Another potential point of confusion is the existence of a U.S. military unit called the 517th Regimental Combat Team that fought in World War II. Okay, so it's saying it's Operation Valhalla is just a book, basically. Okay, this whole thing's taking a while. French Foreign Legion, training exercise. Training exercise, California. Is not a recognized name. Okay, this right here. U.S. Marines and French Foreign Legionnaires improve inoperability and continue to share warrior legacy at SLTE. Okay. I don't know where she's getting the Valhalla name from. U.S. Marines and French Foreign Legionnaires recently completed service-level training exercise at the Marine Corps Air Ground Combat Center in 29 Palms, California. There were a series of cumulative exercises. Marines and Legionnaires familiarize themselves with each other's gear, share tactics and strategies, and integrated operational and fire sport planning to increase our ability to interoperate together as expeditionary forces in readiness. So she's saying these guys, this had something to do with Charlie Kirk's assassination. Maybe somebody, like, they're going after her, going after Charlie. I don't know. I'm sure this kind of stuff is pretty common. But yeah, there's a lot of information here in this article discussing that kind of stuff. But, okay, so maybe she was correct about that, that it is a real thing. I'm not sure where she's getting the Operation Valhalla thing from. That's kind of throwing me for a loop here. But so she was right about that. Okay, the French Legionnaires typo. This is what she was talking about. She's going to address the typo, the Camp Ripley, Camp Riley confusion. I think it's located in Minnesota. This whole thing is goofy. We're jumping around from Minnesota to California here. It's getting weird.
I typoed on X and I wrote Camp Riley. Okay. So I wrote, it's not a coincidence that the French Legion.
Okay. French Legionnaires were in the United States training with our Marines for 3 weeks. Those 3 weeks ended in California. The military training exercise belonged alongside civilians at Camp Riley in Minnesota. French Foreign Legionnaires were involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination. They're not the only ones. Okay, let's let Candace.
Legionnaires were in the United States training with our Marines for 3 weeks. And when those 3 weeks ended in California, another military training exercise began alongside civilians at Camp Riley in Minnesota. Should have said Ripley. Now, you will recall, for those of you who are following the Becoming Brigitte series, that the preferred Macron response is to never address the substance of the claims, but to instead focus on minor details that somebody may get wrong. That's how they've gone after every journalist who has covered the fact that Brigitte Macron was born a male, right? Oopsies, you messed up on this one detail, and now we're going to sue you for defamation. But not, of course, the substance, which is like, hey, you lived as a man for a very long time, and the military won't release your file, and we don't know what you were doing in the military, as Jean-Michel Trogneau. So me making a spelling error was the perfect way for them to attack the broader story, right?
Okay. Here we go. Now this, I know the AI thing, but let's take a look at this here. There is no record of a French Legion military exercise taking place at Camp Ripley, Minnesota. A report about this was a false claim. The French military has held exercises such as Exercise Orion and Ares. These are held in France, while Camp Ripley is primarily used by Minnesota National Guard, other U.S. units for training, according to the Connection and Minnesota National Guard. False claims circulated about a French Legion exercise at Camp Riley in Minnesota. The claim was debunked by a spokesperson for the French Ministry of Armed Forces, who confirmed the training was happening in California, not Minnesota. So she says the training was originally happening in California for 3 weeks between U.S. troops and the French Foreign Legion. And then she said it moved to Camp Riley or Camp Ripley, but there's no record of that happening. And this kind of goes demo training, and she keeps going on. Times of India, Sports Kita. Candace Owens reacts at the French ministry spokesperson. Let's take a look at this. Rejects her allegations over spelling error. Yeah, okay, so it's more than just the spelling error. Like, according to the Connection and Minnesota National Guard. Villagers surprised by soldiers' invasion during French army exercise. Opened my shutters and saw soldiers firing right in front of me. Okay, this is taking place in France, I'm assuming? Okay. No, I'm not going to disable my ad blocker. Okay. Yeah, there's no... Yeah, she was... I don't know where she's getting this from. This is getting really weird. Here. Okay, let's finish this up.
Larger story here being, hey, the French Legionnaires might have been on the ground during Charlie Kirk's assassination. So what happened is the Minister of the Armed Forces issued the following statement in France, and I'm going to quote this for you.
So she's saying, okay, so Tyler Robinson was being trained by the French Foreign Legion, and who the French Foreign Legion that was on the ground in California, or no, were they in Minnesota? But so the French Foreign Legion, did they drive to Utah, assassinate Charlie Kirk, or it's like set up the assassination of Charlie Kirk? This whole thing. Okay, I know I said I was going to keep an open mind. This whole thing is kind of spiraling here.
Quote, Tyler Robinson was never part of the French Foreign Legion. If he did not serve in an American military unit, he could not have trained with the French Foreign Legion. End quote. Well, it's quite a way to dance around things. And Charlie Kirk says, I see what you did there. You just missed the fact that we don't think Tyler Robinson did. So you're just issuing a statement. This is bogus. Tyler Robinson never trained.
Okay. Do you have any proof that he was in that? You have any documents, any transcripts, anything like that? Anything talking about where is she getting this Tyler Robinson French Foreign Legion thing? Okay. Well, let's put a pin in that. This next segment here, she's going to challenged the non-debunking claims about the French military operations that allegedly didn't happen. According to Google, maybe Google is an Israeli intelligence arm as well.
I put Riley, not Ripley, and they can now confirm that the French Legion did not take part in any exercise at Camp Riley because it doesn't exist, and Candace Owens is stupid, and so now you should just assume that everything else source said is debunked. This is what you call a non-debunking debunk, a Snopes level debunking over a typo, okay? And I guess my other allegations should not be answered or even explored. Now, I should mention also that after that civilian military exercise ended at Camp Ripley on the 27th, another joint military operation began from August 29th through to September 10th, the day that Charlie was shot. And that was known as Operation Bright Star, and that took place in Cairo, Egypt. Now, it is a...
Oh, shit.
I put Riley, not Ripley, and they can now confirm that the French Legion...
My bad. I didn't mean to press that button. What was Operation Bright Star? Operation... Let's take a look at this. Cairo. Okay. Operation Bright Stars. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Operation Bright Star is a multinational military exercise that takes place in Egypt and is co-hosted by the U.S. and Egyptian armed forces. Okay, so she was right about that. She was right about the joint military exercises with the French Foreign Legion and U.S. troops in California, but there's nothing going on at Camp Ripley. It's Operation Bright Star. This has something to do with that. Okay, so she's right about that. Host country Egypt and the U.S. Now she's saying... Okay, Bright Star, U.S. Embassy in Egypt. Okay, so established in 1980, Bright Star is one of CENTCOM's longest-running and most significant multinational military exercise now in its 19th iteration. Bright Star 25 will run from August 28th to September 10th. Aims to strengthen collective defense capabilities, improve regional security, and reinforce strategic partnerships. So she's right about that. She's right about, like, the military exercises, some of the military exercises. But if they're in Cairo... So it's Egyptian, ties back into the spy plane that, according to her, Charlie Kirk would have spotted, the spy plane that went after Erica for some reason. But let's
did not take part in any exercise at Camp Riley because it doesn't exist, and Candace Owens is stupid, and so now you should just assume that everything else source said is debunked. This is what on the 27th, another joint military operation began from August 29th through to September 10th, the day that Charlie was shot. And that was known as Operation Bright Star, and that took place in Cairo, Egypt. Now, it is a biennial joint military operation. It's co-hosted by the United States and Egypt to enhance regional security and to strengthen military partnerships. I just don't love the timing of all of these things. I just don't love France and Egypt and the United States together for the whole month leading up to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So I'm going to speculate until we get some answers, some straight yes or no answers from the White House, from the Élysée Palace, or from the French security forces.
Okay, so she's basing all of this on what? I don't know. There are joint military exercises, but as she proved, okay... She did talk about, she got the itinerary for the plane, but she got the times mixed up. I think the plane took off after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, unalived. But she said it was spying on Charlie Kirk, and she said there was a foreign dignitary going. I'm getting all confused here. But this whole thing, okay. Now she's talking to Wilmington, Delaware. Now, Delaware is the state that the Macrons are filing their lawsuit in. I think that's the location of Candace's little media company. We're going to get into the 920 East King Street thing, but let's watch this first. She's talking about a foreign dignitary, his mysterious visit to Wilmington, Delaware. So let's get into this.
Short for that, whatever. And they sign off on that the very week that I get sent this cease and desist, despite the fact that I hadn't been speaking about Brigitte. It was just weird, coincidental timing. And it could be a coincidence, But I'm going to now test your resolve at home regarding French coincidences, because for me, it's a little too much is what I'll say. Okay. So we learned from a source that a foreign dignitary was escorted, right, from that hangar to 920 North King Street in Wilmington, Delaware, a place that we learned and confirmed had 3 federal agencies working together in one building. The internet can try to debunk that. They can't. Okay. The feds are not going to debunk that because it's true. And then we learned that it is also a place which houses the attorneys that are filing my paperwork in the Brigitte lawsuit. I explained this. Delaware has a particular legal stipulation that even if you have your own lawyers, you have to find lawyers that will file the paperwork in your lawsuit. Okay. The rules on that vary state by state. We then learned that Brigitte's lawyers in my lawsuit are directly across the street from that firm. Okay. Confirmed. We're just warming up though, because the person that leaked that information about the dignitary being escorted, remember, that person never insinuated that the dignitary was French. But then after people on the internet pretended that he or she was lying about that information.
Okay. Let's take a look at this real quick. Bridget Macron and her husband, French President Emmanuel Macron, are represented by the law firms Claire Locke, I said Tom Locke, or Thomas Clock, or something like that, my bad, and Farnham LLP, and their Delaware defamation suit against conservative commentator Candace Owens. Primary counsel handling this case is in the U.S. is Tom Clare, founding partner of Claire Locke. Oh, I did get Tom Clare right. Okay. Bryony Farnham LLP is a local counsel in Delaware. 22 defamation lawsuit was filed in Delaware Superior Court in July 2025. The case was filed in Delaware because the LLC and corporation used to manage Owens' social media post and website, respectively, are both. Okay. So I was right about that. So she's saying Bridget Macron's lawyers, Delaware. She's saying it's across the street. Okay. 919. So Farnham LLP. So Bridget Macron's. Okay. Are they using the same lawyer here? Because this says the Farnham LLP defamation lawsuit. Their address. Oops, my bad. Wrong button. This is on 919 North Market Street, which is next to 920. Okay. So Candace is right about that. Interesting. So this Farnham LLP is next to this 920 East King Street, where this law firm is, but there's 2 law firms involved, which is, 2 law firms being close to each other like that isn't too crazy. But she's saying it has to do with Bridget Macron. Well, this obviously has to do with Bridget Macron, but she's implying, I'm not sure what she's implying from that. Whatever. Let's get into this next clip. This is the one she's talking about the 920 East King debunking or the controversy surrounding that. But let's get into this. This is another clip here.
The Revolutionary War, and we were fighting because, we didn't, the monarchy. Okay. England was not even under a monarchy at that time. Okay. And also I have learned in recent years that really the whole history of America is like warring factions of Freemasons. That's the reality. Warring factions of Freemasons competing for American territory. Now we're going to get into the substance of his email. He begins with something that is speculation and I'm not going to get too deep into, but essentially he says that across from 920 King, there is a red crane, and he's able to confirm that the French are absolutely involved in this somehow. I found direct U.S.-French alignment near 920 North King Street using structural aviation markers, financial lineage, corporate fronts, and...
Hold on. Let me see something here. Let's take a look. 920 East Kings. No, wait, it's North King Street. North King in Wilmington, Delaware. Here it is right here. Okay, let's take a look. I got it right here. We're going to drop this little guy down here. There's Wilmington Public Library. Okay. She said it was right across the street. I'm assuming Richards, Layton, and Finger. That's her lawyer right here. This is the building right here. She said there was a red crane. This was taken 5 years ago, so that's not going to be help for us. This is her address here. This address here. Let's take a look. Law. Is that another law firm? I'm not sure. Children's Beach House. That was taken 5 years ago. It says it's a Wilmington Public Library. Now let's take a look at this. Do. Hang on. Do. Okay. 920 North Market Street. Let's take a look at this. Or 919 North Market Street. Oh, for God's sake. North Market Street, Wilmington, Delaware. Okay, that's here. Okay, so it's not right across the street, but it's right down the street. So this is Candace Owens' lawyer. This is Bridget McCrone's lawyer. I guess. Is that even a law firm? It says M&T Bank, Ballard Spar, Stevens and Lee. That is an attorney, Stevens and Lee. But is that where Farnham is located? I think this is the building right here, Wells Fargo. Okay, this is the Wells Fargo building. Legal Services Corporation of Delaware. Maybe they are located in there. Okay, but I'm not really understanding what the connection is to this. All right, let's take a break from that. Let's finish up this segment here.
Historical French corridors. Now, he shows us that this is across from 920 North King, and it starts with a huge construction site. There's a huge construction site right across from there, and there's a long red crane that he points out, and I'm going to show you that crane right now because this person sent videos. Because LOL to anybody who thought that we were being that actually I love it because it pissed him off, and now.
Okay, so she was right. Okay, she was right about a couple military exercises. She was right about Operation Bright Star, but she doesn't. It just seems like a lot of hearsay. It seems like her own personal kind of take on the situation. She says because of the involvement of the Egyptian military and the French military around the time that Charlie Kirk was assassinated, one was in Cairo, one was in California. How they got to Utah, they transported Tyler Robinson somehow. I don't know. But so she was right about the attorneys being close by. I'm assuming that those buildings, were possibly housing the Farnham lawsuits or the Tom Clare law firm. Okay. Now, Candace, Adam from the PBD podcast had some things to say about Candace Owens, and she addresses them. He's basically calling her crazy.
So we're going to run that poll until the end of this show, which is coming much sooner than I anticipated. We're not going to get to everything today. Don't worry. I have more for you tomorrow. Like I said, it is going to be a long week. I do want to get to this commentary because I honestly don't even understand what is happening to PBD's show, which I very much used to enjoy. I see clips floating around, so it's not fair to paint with a broad brush, but a broad stroke. But I will say that Adam Sosnick is reaching levels of absurdity here, rather than at all trying to prod the narrative.
Okay. You're not reaching levels of absurdity, though. You're just telling the truth. Like the French Legion somehow shipping Tyler Robinson to Utah to assassinate Charlie Kirk, the alleged assassination plot, which would be an international incident. If the French government wanted to kill, a U.S. citizen, that would be like an international incident, like in America, like a domestic strike. I don't know, man. I don't know. But let's watch this clip
of whether or not there was actually an assassination attempt on my life. He decides to respond to this allegation by saying that I have no famous friends. I kid you not. This is the level of insincerity that you can almost say it's laughable at this moment of people that are engaged in the sport of politics. Take a listen to what Adam Sosnick had to say on Patrick Bet-David's podcast.
Disgusting thing. Forget about what she said about Israel and Jews and BLM and liberals. This is friendship stuff. This is friendship stuff. The most valuable currency you have are the relationships you have, your friends. In my opinion, she's burned every bridge she's ever been associated with. Whether that's Turning Point USA, whether that's the Daily Wire, whether that's PragerU, Charlie Kirk, Steven Crowder. I don't know what's going on even in this room, but it's not like we're loving what she's doing these days. I'm asking you a serious question. Who are her friends at this point?
Okay. It's a worthwhile question to ask. This next clip, Adam goes on a little bit. Now, this is just nothing really, not really a debunk. He's basically just kind of, I guess, calling her character into question, talking about it's kind of like a ad hominem attack, but can you really blame him?
Well, to me,
do
she's
think
very
has
lonely.
friends. No, I think she's very close with Tucker. I do think she has a group
How many
of
more
friends.
can you name, though? Other than Tucker,
yeah.
Genuine question. I'm not trying to throw her under the bus. Who's Candace's friends? Who are her allies? Can we name a name? Anyone?
Oh,
Anyone?
She's got more than you would believe.
Name a name.
No, she's got a lot of them.
I'm sure that there's
She does.
Twitter army out there.
Yeah,
but what famous names advocates are saying, I'm with Candace? Tucker, maybe? Who else?
No.
Like Jimmy Dore and, Dave Smith and a few other conservative kind of people in the conservative, like anti-left, right-wing but not too right-wing spheres. They're pushing her narrative a lot. Nick Fuentes doesn't believe it. He's kind of called her out about it. It's kind of funny. Maybe we'll watch some clips of Nick Fuentes talking about Candace Owens one day. But yeah, this whole thing is getting goofy here. But it's just like, I don't know what she's correct about a couple things, but I don't know how she's connecting all of them together. Like, nothing she's saying is really proof of any of this. She's saying she has sources. She doesn't name her sources. She just says an official here, an official there. There's also the instance of her, getting a bunch of information fed to her from like a prank caller. Who are these people that are contacting her? What's going on? Everything is just like vapor. Like, nothing is cold, hard facts. And I can understand this PBD guy being a little annoyed.
No,
I can't name one.
It's just, I want to guys, just because we got to all wake up to this matrix, okay? First and foremost, nothing he is saying is true. The first thing I'd like to clarify is I have never been friends with Steven Crowder. I just feel like that is really not good dirt to throw on my name.
Okay. She gets into that a little bit. The whole thing, like her and Steven Crowder. I know she went after him hard after his abuse towards his wife became public. But now this final clip we're going to play to end the video. It's going on for an hour. I can't believe it. But let's get into this final video here. Talk about what she's talking about here, what's going on with this, and just get into it a little bit. And this is talking about DC's dark side.
No, and by the way, on the subject of the kind of people that he's referring to, it was notoriously Eric Bolling that sat across from Adam when they attacked me over Charlie Kirk and lied and said that I hadn't been friends with Charlie Kirk since 2017. After that episode, Eric Bolling sent me an email and apologized and said it was Adam's fault. And he didn't even know Adam's name. I think he called him Sam in the email. I should actually pull it and I'll post it on Instagram. Didn't even know, threw Adam and PBD's entire team under the bus in 3 seconds and said, I just want to apologize with you, Candace, because that's how politics work. They all stab each other in the back, and they all do it because they think they're on the pursuit of like fame and riches. We are not going to save the West in general from the absolute sexual deviants that run it, the liars and the crooks that run the West, if we have the attitude that we need to be well liked by famous people who are all drunk. Truly, they're all just a bunch of drunks hanging out in DC. That's the reality of the political field. Get real value in your life. And that's what I want to say about that before I get into some of your questions. Poll is still running, by the way. I will tell you the total when we come back from this brief break.
Okay. That's the end of the clips. I'll let you decide whatever you want to decide. I'm not sure what her solid evidence is. As I said before, in the last couple of videos, I'm not sure what she's going on about. But she does mention this Brian Bowling, whatever his name was, allegedly disavowing Adam from the PBD podcast. I did go to her Instagram. I did not see anything really related to. Hold on one second. Let's see if I can adjust this a little bit. And I can't. TH display. Okay. This right here. But this is some information she is sharing allegedly. This was on her Instagram. As we can see, there's really nothing here. Oh, I gotta log in. Fuck that shit. But this right here, this is a Brigitte update. Because I am certain that French foreign legionnaires, a military unit made up of multiple nations, FYI, were involved in Charlotte's assassination, I feel that it is urgent that I share this following information with the public. Let's get into it. We'll start with the question, what is it about Brigitte Macron that required Charlotte Kirk, followed by Sergio Gore, and then President Donald Trump to personally call me and ask me to not further investigate her? At the time, it seemed absurd, funny almost. They probably don't want to get sued, but it's kind of too late for that now. Like, I don't think there's any, like, really dark assassination thing, like, dark conspiracy. I think they probably just don't want to get sued. And honestly, I'll just say this. I was talking to a couple of my buddies about this Brigitte Macron thing, just talking like I was doing some work on this, talking about Candace Owens. And they're kind of familiar with it a little bit. But one of my buddies just said to me, who the fuck cares if Brigitte Macron is trans? Who the fuck cares? If Emmanuel Macron likes trans women, who gives a shit? But apparently, Candace Owens is also saying Brigitte Macron had some involvement with the Stanford prison experiment, and that's when she decided to transition, and she had some connection to the CIA. I don't know. But this stuff, it's just getting crazy. At the time, it seemed absurd, funny almost. Let's get into this again. Sergio Go was pretty fired up about it, but why? Why is the story of a man cross-dressing as a first lady in France apparently the biggest state secret of all? I'm now putting those pieces together in retrospect. Okay, a few more highlights. Okay, I don't feel like logging into this bullshit, but let's call it there. Been doing this for about an hour. A lot of interesting information being shared. This big lawsuit coming up. Candace has a full plate in front of her. She's going through a lot of stuff. It's pretty crazy. This kind of crap. The kind of attention she's drawing to herself. It's pretty insane. But she seems to wholeheartedly believe it. She seems like she's bought into this hook, line, and sinker. I'm not really sure, but what do you think about this? Leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. If you want to accuse me of being a shill. But digging deeper into this kind of stuff, it's just, you got to turn a critical eye to it. And I know people don't want to hear this stuff. I think Candace is really at a point where she's not able to be reasoned with. I think she's at a point where she's basically just gone. But, I mean, looking at the size of the brand she has, the audience she has, these people just keep stirring her up, egging her on, all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to leave it there. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts on this down below, and I'll talk to you guys later.